And he was somebody who's very inquisitive, very proactive in solving problems. So what did he do? He made a biopesticide out of jampal, and he made a bioplastic out of beetroot juice. Ended up winning the third prize in the International Science and Engineering Fair, and had full ride scholarships from 5 universities and offers from every university that he applied to.
Hello everyone. Today I'm joined by a fantastic educationist and a friend of mine, Swagat Yadav. Swagat is the founder at One Young India, a holistic education platform for high school students and undergraduates to engage in meaningful, correlative, curriculum-based workshops that help participants connect current affairs with standardized curriculum. He also advocates for Learnacy, which is developing the habit and ability to constantly learn. Swagat is a graduate from BITS Pilani. Swagat, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Devesh, for the kind introduction. The pleasure is all mine. And like you said, right, what One Young India does and the Learnacy thing that we stand for, that I think is just to briefly explain it, like, you know what, you have students reading, let's say, Gravitation in grade 9, right? And they're watching movies like Avengers, and they're watching movies like Interstellar. So are they able to really understand, what is a space-time continuum? What are gravitational waves? So that is what we try to do with our curricula and our programs.
Fantastic, superb. So let me straight away jump into the questions. And my first question to you is, what is the most important skills students should focus on today to be ready for the world of tomorrow?
All right, that's an interesting question. So you've already given the answer when you introduced me. So number one, and the most important skill that I feel is the ability to learn constantly, right? Because we are very fortunate, while we are in our schools, to have teachers who will hold our hands. They'll figure out, oh, you're not great at that subject. While even we are in universities, in some universities, we do have teachers who are going to help us. But then, formal education has to stop at some time. But learning should not, right? Which is where truly believe that, the ability to constantly learn, because the world is fast, so we have to be faster. I'm not saying we have to be in a rat race, but yes, learn about things like AI, mRNA, CRISPR, Cas9, brain on chips, the changing geopolitical structure, the new world order, the new financial architecture. This is really, really important. And these are the skills that I would say, number one, like I said, constantly learning. And the second skill, because we are right now bombarded with information from left, right, center, anyone who has a camera has the ability to speak up their mind right now. But whether it is validated, whether it is rational, whether it is factful, still remains to be seen. So the other important skill would be managing media and your digital footprint.
Oh, absolutely. Learning and the ability to learn, and also managing what kind of information you are consuming, and probably applying your brain and critical thinking before you actually accept everything that you come across. So, Swagat, let's talk a little bit about your programs. Talk about the different programs that you run, and what do the fellows or the students actually do during their time in the program. Can you walk us through a typical week?
All right. So before I walk you through a typical week, I would want to briefly tell you about how our programs at One Young India are structured, right? So we have something known as correlative curricula. When you gave an introduction, you said there is something known as correlative curricula. So what do we mean by that? So we defined our own curricula, which is divided into 10 subjects, 5 academic and 5 skill based. The academic subjects being sync with science, right? Sync with science meaning that, there are science and tech developments that are happening. You are reading it in the textbooks. Let's synchronize them together. Everyday economics, right? Parallel politics, geography geniuses, and math magicians. So these are 5 academic subjects. And after that, we have skill-based subjects. When I say skill-based subjects, these would be like curious computing, right? Learning about, let's say, quantum computing, AI, machine learning, edge computing, because right now, honestly, we are living in that world where computers are our second extension. Early entrepreneur. So, I mean, I am not saying that everybody has to be an entrepreneur, but you can be an entrepreneur as well, right? It's just like, you are doing something. Can you do it better? Can you improvise it? Can you make it much more efficient? Can you figure out ways in which you can add value. So early entrepreneurs, that ability to add value. Then at the same time, we would say, I just mentioned managing media, right? Learning to managing media that you're consuming and your digital footprint. Conscious creativity, right? Conscious creativity in the sense that you cannot be creative if you have all the resources in the world. So there are always constraints that need to be put. So learning to work with constraints consciously, right? Divergent thinking. So conscious creativity, and at the same time, design dreamers. Because when you're talking about design thinking, using the five senses for design, looking at maybe designing a smart city, designing your homes for that matter, designing a product, designing a curricula, right? You name it. So these are the kind of skills that we feel are really, really essential. This forms the backbone of every intervention that we have at One Young India. Now, namely, we have three programs that we run, either independently, which is online or in person at our convention center or online. Then we work with schools and universities and independent counselors. Now, the three programs, namely, number one is called Model Niti Ayog. Now, as you're aware, Niti Ayog is a think tank. And a think tank, by the very definition and nature of it, is multidisciplinary and interdisciplinary. So, Model Niti Ayog caters to finding solutions to problems that exist for the public, essentially answering two questions. Number one, where is public in public policy? And second, how do we bring play into policy making? Because if we collaborate together, some of the world's most complex problems can be solved in a very playful manner. And I'm sure that you will agree with me because you work with so many students. I work with so many students that kids, specifically high school students and middle school students, they're a blank slate, right? They do not come with a preconceived notion. And the kind of solutions that they offer, these are really innovative, really playful, and sometimes they work. So, which is what Model Niti Ayog tries to do. The second program that we have is called Learnacy. Like we already mentioned, Learnacy would be the ability to constantly learn, but this is an interdisciplinary program, taking into consideration that, for example, if you read The Economist, right? It's called The Economist, does not limit it to only economy and finance and business. It talks about polity, it talks about science and tech, it talks about culture, it talks about design, it talks about art and everything. So Learnacy is a program for aspiring generalists. Have functional knowledge about everything, the ability to connect the dots, and use that knowledge to further your specialty. And the third program that we have is called Model G20. Model G20 is a simulation like MUN, but reflective of the geopolitical changes that are happening today. A lot of presence from global south is there in G20 right now. So this year, for example, G20 is hosted by South Africa. The previous year, it was hosted by Brazil. The year before, it was India. The year before, in 2022, it was Peru. So the world is changing, right? And with respect to these geopolitical changes, it becomes imperative right now to reflect those in simulations that we are doing for students to learn from. When students enter into a simulation like Model G20, they don't just debate for the sake of debating. They debate because they understand consensus building, right? Unlike our United Nations, G20 works in a fashion when there is no voting at all. You have just 21 members on the table and you have to listen to everyone. And you cannot go ahead and say that, you know what, out of 21 members, 15 members agree, 6 don't agree, so let's pass the resolution, right? It's not going to work like that, which means it requires different leadership skills, it requires different negotiation skills, and it requires pacifying, right? And problem solving. So this is what Model G20 does. So these are the three programs that we run under One Young India. Repeating again, Model Niti Ayog, which is specifically on public policy, Model G20, which is looking at the new world order, and Learnacy, which is looking at critical thinking, general awareness, and at the same time, preparing students as generalists.
Yeah, no, fantastic. A very interesting thought here is uh, you need to develop your those general skills and be a generalist, but also go deeper in some of those skills which you are passionate about and become a specialist in that. And I think that is so critical and important in today's world. Swagat, just talk us a little bit about your flagship program, which you tell me whether this is a G20 or the Model Niti Aayog, which is your flagship program, and walk me through it as a student.
Okay. All right. So whether you sign up for Model Niti Aayog, whether you sign up for Model G20 or Learnacy or a summer conference that we run on a summer symposium, right now the partner that we have is Flame University. We've been running it with them from the last 2 years now. So every intervention that we have, what is the outcome for the student? Number one, like the question that students, parents, counselors, teachers, right, ask is, what do the students gain? So yes, there is a certificate, but a certificate should not be the only outcome, right? Because you can collect n number of certificates, it does not say anything about you. And specifically the kind of changes right now that are happening in US, you're looking and there's scrutiny on your social media profiles, what you're posting. There has to be a demonstrated interest. You tell me that you're interested in design, I want to ask you, as a student, have you done something related to design, right? And when I search for your name, is something going to pop up where I'm going to be able to see your portfolio? So we help students build their portfolio, an academic portfolio, where the students get an opportunity to publish a white paper. Now, a white paper, unlike a research paper, can be written by anyone. One of the greatest examples of a white paper is that of Bitcoin. So, Bitcoin, the white paper, was written by Satoshi Nakamoto. We still do not know whether it was a he, it was a she, whether it was a group of people. We have no clue about their identity. But has the Bitcoin changed the world, the financial world? Absolutely. Another interesting thing about white papers is that you look at the boundaries in Africa, right? And you look at the boundaries in what we call as West Asia slash Middle East. Ideally, because we are from India, we should call it West Asia. But you look at them carefully, you will see that the boundaries are straight. Now, they also have been designed using a white paper. So, white papers are that powerful. And students get an opportunity to publish a white paper with One Young India website. If you search for the names of the students who have already published white papers with us, and just the names, right, you will see their work on the front page of Google. So that validates the kind of work that they're doing. It shows their demonstrated interest. But the story does not end there. Because, you publish it on a One Young India website. Okay, it is being visited by 1 lakh students. Okay. But we also compile the best white papers and essays that we receive into a book that is compiled and published by Cambridge Scholars Publishing, which is a publishing house by Oxford and Cambridge professors, not directly related to Oxford or Cambridge, but this is where a lot of scientists publish their books. And we publish 2 volumes of books every year, every academic year, that contains approximately 100 odd essays and white papers that the students have submitted to us, and we review them with our editorial team and finally submitted to be compiled into a book. So these are the major outcomes. Now, as far as the question as to what do the students learn, right, and how do they experience? So our programs, so let's say typically on one day we have a 4-hour engagement. In that 4 hours, it's not a one-way delivery. The one-way delivery, if at all it is there, it is going to be 45 minutes to 1.5 hours, depending upon how complex the subject is and how much of an introduction do we have to give to the students so that they can start working on it. But after that, they work, collaborate, or work individually on assignments and projects, such as, let's say, we would be asking them, okay, you know what? India has a capital, Delhi, and Delhi became the capital in 1911. It has its own issues. South Africa has 3 capitals. Yeah. Can India have a second capital or an alternative capital? So students usually would say yes. We ask them, okay, now you make another capital. The typical answers initially that we get is, oh, let's make Mumbai the capital, let's make Bangalore the capital, let's make Chennai the capital or Kolkata the capital, right? Then we tell them that, these are already well-developed states. And because we have already spoken to them about constraints in creativity, we would put a constraint to them. We'll tell them that, you know what, the place that now you're going to be selecting as a capital should not have a population of more than 500,000. Now that gets them thinking, right? Okay, now I have to look for a place that does not have a population of more than 5 lakhs. They have to look at the internal security issues. They have to look at the foreign trade policy, right? They have to look at international relations. They have to look at, the medical, the tourism, and so on and so forth, right? It has to be a holistic approach. So, is this a problem that students solve? Yes, absolutely. Let me give you another example, right? We would ask them, and hypothetically, and these are the kind of problems that you, me, and anyone who's right now in a working environment would solve every day, specifically traders. We'd ask them, you know what? Hypothetically, let's put you in a situation that Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, is under attack. Yeah. How would you now trade the Tesla or the Tata Motors stock? Because now to answer this question, they have to first of all learn what comes from Congo that is used in the industries specifically mentioned, right? How does it impact the supply and demand? How does it impact the overall cost of production? How is it that the prices and the profit margins of that company are going to be impacted? And are these questions that are being solved and answered every day? Yes. So, this is what a typical engagement with One Young India looks like, where we give them a foundational base and then we give them problems to solve.
Yeah, absolutely. So exciting. I mean, I can just imagine what, these 17-year-olds would be so excited when they discuss these amongst themselves and probably get very passionate. And then there is some lot of, passionate exchange of words also a lot of times. But this is fun. This is exciting, helping them develop not just their general knowledge, but also helping develop critical thinking, critical reasoning skills. Swagat, I want you to share some experiences of a student and how their life changed, or let's say how what was the long term impact of your programs on them.
All right. So, I have multiple stories. I'd have to pick up the ones that are my favorite, right? So, okay. So there is one of my favorite students, and again, all of my students are favorite, but he is essentially also my teacher. And I truly believe that when one person teaches, two people learn, right? And I have no qualms in saying that I do not know anything, and my students teach me a lot. One of my students, his name is Sarvesh Prabhu. Right now, he is pursuing his education at one of the Ivy League universities. He is really, really passionate about chemistry, right? And um, we got talking, and he was like, you know what, I want to solve this problem. We want to do this. And he was somebody who's very inquisitive, very proactive in solving problems. So what did he do? He made a biopesticide out of jampal, and he made a bioplastic out of beetroot juice. Ended up winning the third prize in the International Science and Engineering Fair, and had full ride scholarships from 5 universities and offers from every university that he applied to. Would I say his life changed? I think yes, but it changed primarily because of him. We were there as only as facilitators, right? Another story is one of my students. Her name is Kavya Gupta. She has been with me since she was in grade 9. Attended all our programs in summers, winters, year on year. Went to Delhi University in Jesus and Mary College. Then went right now to Duke Fuqua School of Business, right? Has just recently graduated, has been in touch and all throughout, and now comes in back as a facilitator for One Young India sessions, right? So I feel that the thing that we've been able to impart to our students is that you have to transition between the role of a learner as well as an educator very seamlessly. Because at one point, whether you are a teacher or not, for example, let's say you become the CEO or a top management in a company, would you be required to transfer your skills to your subordinates? Absolutely. That means you have to have the ability to teach. So one major change that we've seen in our students is that they become fantastic teachers and storytellers, and they excel in that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
well, great to hear both of these fantastic stories, and I'm sure there are many more students who are seeing that transformation. Uh, Thank you for all the fantastic work that you are doing, Swagat. So we're almost coming towards the end of the session, and I wanted to ask you for an advice. What would be your advice to a student who's interested in all of these, sort of maybe doing research or maybe building their own project, who are interested in all of this, where to begin, where to start their journey?
All right. Um, Number one, filter your resources. When I say filter your resources, let's say you're reading the Hindustan Times or Times of India in your home. Number one, please unsubscribe. And I don't hesitate in shaming them, right? Naming and shaming specifically these two newspapers because they're full of advertisements, right? If you have to subscribe to a newspaper, subscribe to a newspaper which is comparatively thin, let's say 12 to 14 pages of content, has the least number of advertisements, is factual, value free. Typically, I would say that there's actually no information that you receive is value free, but still, comparatively much less biased. And certain examples that I can give you would be in Indian Express, the Hindu, the Statesman, the Tribune, for example, right? So if you're reading any of these newspapers, pick one resource, just one resource, and stick to it. You don't need to read the newspapers end to end. Just look at the front page, look at the editorial page, look at the international news page. And if at all you're interested in sports, then definitely that, right? Uh, so this is domestic. The other thing that I would say is pick one international resource. It could be the Wall Street Journal, it could be the Economist, or it could be any other resource that you're comfortable with. Pick that one resource and stick to it. Because if we expand ourselves, if we thin ourselves too much, we don't land anywhere. We don't end up learning a lot. So one domestic resource and one international resource. Figure out which is the ones that align to your interests and stick to them. The second advice that I would want to give is that please be humble. Do not go about what aboutery that, oh, what about that? Okay, I did this, they did that, but what about that? No, that does not work. That's not how leaders work. And no one-upmanship. You enter into a class, you enter into a meeting, you may know everything that is also being discussed there, but you have to respect how and where the audience is coming from, right? The rest of the people in the room should have an equal chance at learning and speaking. If you know things, it's okay. You do not need to show that I know this. When you speak, it will reflect on its own. You will get your time. And when you speak, keep your words to limited. Be a person of limited words, but the words that you use should be really, really impactful. And like I said, the third thing, one last thing, promise. Uh, a lot of the students that we work with come from very privileged backgrounds, right? Do not let that privilege define you. Go with a mindset and a level playing ground. And you'd be surprised, right? There are students right now who are going to government aided schools who are super, super smart. And like I just mentioned, right? When one teaches, two people learn. And every person you meet, whether it is a plumber, whether it is a mechanic, right? Or whether it is somebody who's just sweeping your home, would have something to teach you. So be humble in learning. Yeah.
Absolutely. This is some fantastic piece of advice. Swagat, filter your resources, stay humble.
Filter your resources, stay humble, and be grounded in the sense that, be open to learning, no one-upmanship.
No one.
If you know certain things, it's okay. You don't need to show that I know it.
Yeah.
Your time will come. And when your time comes, speak up with confidence, speak up with conviction so that people listen to when you're speaking. If somebody speaks a lot, right, people tend to ignore them. They're like, oh, they're like a politician. They just always speak. So your words should carry weight. And they will carry weight when you limit your words to minimum, but make sure that they're also impactful.
Superb, superb. My final question to you is, how can students start engaging with you, or what is the first step to start sort of connecting with you?
Okay. So number one, we have a website. It's called as oneyoungindia.com, www.oneyoungindia.com. The website is usually updated with the programs that we have on offer for the year. So there are a couple of programs where students independent of a school or an institution can apply. There are application-based processes where the students have to submit a small essay, a resume, or a transcript if necessary required for that particular program. And then there is a small interview. So post we have figured out whether you're a right fit for the program. And by right fit, I do not mean that you have to be a master of that particular topic. What we require for students to have is the eagerness and the ability to learn, right? And it is just to check the profile. So one is the students can register directly onto the website for the programs that we are running. Second is, for example, if you're in a school and if you would want to bring the program to a school, what can you do? If you're a representative to the school, you can connect us to our counselor, to your counselor in the school, or you can connect us to your principal or your management in the school. And we can conduct certain programs like Model Niti Aayog and Model G20 and Learnacy in your schools. Namely, these programs are right now being run in Pathways World School. We have done something in Pathways School Noida, Learning Path School Mohali. We've done a couple of engagements with Mayo College, Ajmer. There are Indus International School. So a lot of our students actually become ambassadors, right? They are the ones who actually would write to their principal that, you know what, I engaged in this program and I found out that this was great and I would want it to be conducted in the school for all the students. So the second way to engage with One Young India is that you become an ambassador and you bring our programs to your schools. You're the one who introduces the programs to your school. And the third way to engage is when you have something to show, something to publish, something where you would need a little bit of our help from our network, you can always reach out to us with the content that you would want published on our website, specifically, like I said, a white paper or a solution to a problem that matters in the world today. So these are the three ways students can engage with us.
Superb. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Swagat, for your time on this podcast today. Such a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
No, again, Devesh, pleasure is always mine. Like I said, every time I sit with you, every time we have a chat, right? There is so many things that come out of the conversations, and it's a learning for me as well, right? Um, and I'm super glad that we had this podcast. It was absolutely my pleasure. I hope the students gain something from it. I'm
Yeah.
not saying what I'm saying is absolute truth. Every person that you're going to meet is going to come with some value. So please take my words with a pinch of salt. Always research, right? It's called researching. So always research what you're hearing. And that's it from my side, right? I hope that you develop the ability to learn and you become ambassadors in your own respective fields to make sure that people who are associated with you become better than you, right? There is always a saying that hire people who are smarter than you,
Yeah.
right? And I truly, truly believe in that.
Yeah.
Uh, and I would want that the students should also try and replicate that.
Superb. That's very thoughtful. And I think you gave a lot of practical tips and advice to the students. And I think some of these things apply not just to the students, but to adults like you and me. So I'm sure whoever gets a chance to hear or listen to this podcast will certainly take some of these learnings with them.
No, absolutely. It's what the intention is. So let's hope how far we go ahead with our intentions.
Filter your resources, stay humble, uh, and a couple more.
Yes.
What were the other two?
So I said, like,